Welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast. This is Shasi, your host. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time, please share this with your friends, your family, because this podcast is all about sharing very good inspirational stories, obviously from my guests and their stories and their storytelling. And I tell you what, today I do have a great guest with me, and he actually needs no introduction actually in the football fraternity here in Singapore. Now, he is currently the technical director of the National Football Association of Brunei. He was the TD and coach mentor of Hanta Wadi United FC in Myanmar previously. Now, he has also coached the Young Lions, Balestier Utd and Home United in the S League. He was also the TD, the technical director at the Football Association of Singapore for 4 years. The FIFA instructor was also the national team coach from 1992 to 1993, where he went through a roller coaster ride, getting relegated and then, of course, reaching the final of the Malaysia Cup the following year with a famous dream team. We'll talk a lot about that later on. I'm sure listeners will want to hear from my guest. My guest is also a holder of the AFC UEFA Professional Coaching Diploma. And above all, coach, mentor, and what have you, I know my guest as a very down-to-earth, soft-spoken, and a gentleman. Welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast, Mr. PN Sivaji.
Thank you, Sashi. Thank you very much.
There's so much to talk about, and we will not go through this conversation in chrono order. I think there's so much to talk about, so we go back and forth. Now, currently, you are the TD of Brunei. How has it been so far, and what is your brief, your role, and your targets?
It has been weird primarily because I got the appointment in June this year.
Yeah.
How it came about was I went to do a technical study. I was invited to do a technical study last year in 2020, that is, in February, March. So
okay.
I had 2 visits,
right,
just to analyze the football situation there. And they had a new president, so he invited me over.
right.
And I had a good friend who actually recommended me to that position at the time. It was Jaising Mutaya, who is from Malaysia,
right,
who was a FIFA development officer, but as a consultant with Brunei then. And he one day calls me up and says, "Look, Brunei is looking for a TD. Would you be keen to go?"
Yeah.
I had just finished my contract with Myanmar.
Yeah.
And it came like something for me to continue working. I didn't realize my age then. I'll tell you a story of my age realization later.
Right.
And then I went up to see them. We had discussion, and I found out that the new president of Brunei was a man I knew from my Malaysia Cup days, 92, 93. He was general secretary of the Brunei Football Federation, Pangeran Matusin. And when we met up, and then we met up in KL, neutral territory. And so I made up my proposals, and he was happy with what he saw, and they offered me the job in June.
Okay.
So in June, that's why I said it's weird, because we were in the midst of a pandemic. So I worked from home. That was again something very new. And working from home, trying to reach your staff in Brunei was not the easiest.
Okay.
They had actually resumed work because Brunei is fairly clean.
So you were back in Singapore doing the work from Singapore?
Yeah. So I got the appointment in 1st of June, and I was then in Singapore, couldn't leave. Then finally they had this green lane in Singapore.
Yeah.
September 29th, I joined them there. Stayed 3 nights in quarantine. Everything was okay, and then I started work. But again, there are a lot of limitations because in Brunei, although it's clean where the COVID is concerned, impact of COVID is concerned, they still don't allow much football activity.
Okay.
So they only limited it to 15 packs. So we try to work within those constraints. So that's how it came about.
Okay. We will just talk about the role, TD, technical director role, later on, right? But you've been away for quite a bit from, I think, 2010, right? Myanmar, obviously, and all the way, and then the latest one with Brunei. How has it been away from home for a very long time? And obviously, your wife has been with you, and famously, you said football was your first love before marriage. Right?
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
and your wife had to live with that.
Yeah.
So how was that? That experience like?
Actually, that is the best thing to have happened to me and to my wife, because I discovered the real love with my wife, because if I publicly mentioned that she was my second love when we got married, now she has been my first love, and if she's listening to this, she'll be very happy to hear that. But really, you find she has been a real strong pillar of support in helping me to bring the children up, and I've been an AWOL father most of the time because of work. So it has been how it has been away from Singapore. This is something I was yearning for from the time I became a national coach.
Right.
After I finished my term with the FA as a national coach, I have been trying to explore. There were a little bit of interest from Penang at one time, but nothing materialized.
Right.
And I was saying one day, and this one day came.
Wow.
In
And
2010.
would that be your advice to young coaches as well, coming up? Like, they just starting to make the grade and, coaching in the S League. Do you think that would be a good advice to them? Would that be your advice to them?
Yeah, but the only change would be pay more attention to your wife. The first time, don't wait for a second time. It may never happen. So I was fortunate that it happened the second time, and my wife was still with me. Yes, but otherwise, yes, you have to get out, and it's not easy. I was hoping that when I go abroad, and people will see the quality. Okay, we're trying to be humble with the quality of Singapore coaches, that they would maybe open the doors for more Singaporeans. But it didn't happen as quickly as I thought.
Right.
Although lately there's been some developments.
You said that it wasn't difficult, right? And sorry, it wasn't easy. Same thing. I just spoke to Indra Shadan, right? And he was talking about his trials in Vietnam, and he didn't like it because of the food and the accommodation and all this. It's not easy. I can understand about that part, right? How was it for you? Was it easy to adapt to the?
It was tough because in 2010, I tried to Google when I heard of this offer from a Malaysian agent.
Right.
And nothing much those days because they were under the junta, and I was warned that it will not be as what you can get things in Singapore so easily. You can't get that, and true enough, it was not easy. Everything was. I mean, the club, the owner of the club, we call him Mr. Omojo.
Okay.
He was fantastic. He made sure that first of all, when I arrived,
was this at Okta?
At Okta.
Oh, yes.
So Okta finally became Hantawadi.
Right.
So it's the same owner. But he made sure that my stay was comfortable. He put me in a hotel initially, which was owned by a Malaysian. So they're Malaysian chefs. So we knew Singaporeans, crave for good food, home food. So that was good. Again, foresight in his part. And when this offer came about, and I said, oh, why not? See, what I was not sure whether the league was a professional league. So the agent told me, hey, there's a lot of money in it. There's good league. They're bringing in good foreigners and foreign coaches. And this appealed to me because I wanted to lock horns with some of the foreign coaches to see where I stand. And I thought that was very useful. The great Ken Warden was there. Ken Warden was there.
Yes.
So we had locked horns and re-established contacts.
Right. And it was good that the league just started as well. The professional league started as well. So you always know that when something starts, it's going to be big. Like just like our S League, for example. And you talk about the good foreigners then as well. And you also had a short stint or a spell with KBZFC, which is also called Shan United.
No, now they're not Shan United, and they're a top team.
Yes.
Even then they were a top team.
Right.
The boss brought me in on the recommendation of my previous boss.
Okay.
Now the previous boss released me, Mr. Omojo. Released me because he said the funds were not there for the new, because there was a change in management.
Right.
So I said fine, no problem. But then he calls me up sometime in April the following year, 2012, and says this club is looking for you. So he put in a good word. So I went there. So this was the Okta team had nobody. I mean, meaning no big names. No national players.
Yes.
KBZ had all the national players. So it was a real challenger.
Right.
But my experience working with the Dream Team 1992-93 or 93 particularly had given me some experience in dealing with the foreign with the top players.
Right.
So that helped me. But we didn't win the league, but we won the cup twice, in both successively in 2 years.
Yeah.
And I had a good season there.
Yeah. And you said you won the FA Cup. With Okta. You take great pride in that, and tell us why.
Primarily because we were written off from the beginning, and that was already motivation. And finally, in the finals, we met Ken Warden's Southern Myanmar.
Okay.
So I took one over him.
Right.
And that was also
great.
Pleasure. Not because I like Ken very much, but you know, when you one of the things why you when you go abroad is to develop yourself.
Of course.
And then you lock horns against top coaches like him. Because,
Great. And let's make a comparison between the Myanmar League and the S League. Then, when you first started out, and how is it compare that to our league?
In 1996, if I can compare that to Singapore's league when we first started with 2010 when they started the league, the Singapore league was better. We had better players, good quality players. Okay. We had a very well structured league. The late Balakrishnan was the guy who drove the initial part of the league. He had done a fantastic job, and the people who ran the league in Singapore at that time, Chris Wong and company, Chris Chan. I don't know who was before, but they did a fantastic job. I think everything was monitored well. I still remember Lee Kok Leong doing a fantastic job in the competition department. So they had a very well structured league, or rather we. But in 2010, when I was there, the league was not managed well. But there were good foreign players. There were not many good foreign coaches. Some of the clubs were still adamant that Myanmar coaches could do the job. And they couldn't because when I tell you why they were appointed to the league, because the owners wanted to interfere. Most of the owners wanted to interfere, and they knew that they could not do it with the foreign coaches.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
So they appointed local coaches, and they found to their cost that the teams, although had good players, were struggling with results and performances.
Right. Well, that is something that I've always. Hate is a wrong, too strong of a word, but you you gotta hate something like that's
absolutely.
happening.
And I was very fortunate, Shasi, because this boss of Okta and who became owner of Hantawadi, he was an outlier.
Yeah.
He was unlike the other bosses.
Right.
He recruits foreigners with expatriates and say, look, they are the experts.
Right.
Let them do the job.
Yes.
If they don't do the job, we tell them, still no improvement, we fire them.
Right.
But the other managers, I thought he was an example swimming against the tide. And I think because of what he has done and what the team has achieved over the years, other chairmen have started to think differently. So that is good.
Great. Because and I think that has got to stop as well. And not only there in anywhere in general, because in the past you do see that happening here as well. And it's not healthy as well, because once you get, again in my opinion, once you get a coach, then he has to do the job. If he doesn't, then you fire him, that's fine, but when you interfere, then it's not his job anymore, right? So it's
I agree. And not many people will agree with me, and maybe you won't either. When I was in Singapore, 96, I was technical director. Robert Alberts was the coach, 96, 97. 98, Mr. Tavanesan invited me to join them. What tempted me was that he was going to change the whole player setup. He was a young team to build up a new team.
You're talking about Balestier? Right.
Balestier, that time we were Balestier Central.
Right.
And Tavanesan is another guy who brought me in and said, look, I will not interfere. And he didn't. He kept his word. So I know not many people will agree with what I'm saying, but they will say they have different perceptions. But he has been another guy who stood by me most of the time.
Right.
Almost all the time. So.
Right. I can't say much because I wasn't. I didn't have any contact with Tava, so I wouldn't know. But what I do remember, I don't know whether you remember this. When I OR'd, wanted to go or play for my very first club in a pro setup in 1999. The first negotiation I had was with you in the Toa Payoh Stadium. I clearly remember that, but things didn't work out because I think I went to Clementi Khalsa in the very first year. Their first year, Jita called me in, and then
You're the Iranian coach.
Yes, Baman Forotan.
Yeah.
Good memories.
No, I can't remember that.
Now let's go back further. Right, let's start with how you started with the game when you were a young boy at school and clubs. How did the love for the beautiful game start? Your first love. How did that start?
I grew up in the naval base.
Yes.
The naval base was where the British had a big influence.
Right.
They had a lot of ships coming in for,
Yeah.
and then the ships used to be berthed for a period of time for repairs.
Okay.
And the crew would be coming out to play friendly matches with the locals.
Okay.
I was a kid going to watch those games at this place called Deptford Ground.
Wow. Okay, I remember.
It's a mecca of football in
Yes.
Sembawang,
Yeah.
in naval base. And I began to love the game. Like you and most of the guys, I've been playing this, not street football, but anywhere there's a small patch of grass, you play.
Of course.
Those, not necessarily grass. So that's where I developed. And I had players with me like Bernard Norbert, the late Anandan, Suresh Anandan, Sudesan Anandan, Lee Kameng, Kim Song.
Right.
So we were all living in the same place and going to the same school. So that's how I developed my interest in the game.
Right.
But to get out of that, because you know, the people in the other parts of Singapore looked at Sembawang as a kampung.
Okay.
So and we always had this like siege mentality.
Right. Right.
That we said, we want to prove.
It's like the ghetto.
You know, the ghetto, yeah.
Right.
But you know, we had our share of bad people.
Yeah.
But also there were a lot of fantastic guys who grew up to contribute to society and whatnot. But yeah, so coming back to how I learned to play the game, I thought the presence of the Anandan family, who were very close to us, Kim Song and I becoming very close from secondary school onwards, Kumar, Bernard Norbert.
Right.
So all these were national players, and I was the only odd one out who never became a national player. Not good enough.
Okay. And but you did play for your school team and a couple of clubs as well. Now you quit the game because of your eyesight.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I had severe astigmatism. So my eyesight was poor, and I used to wear glasses, tie it up, and play.
Okay.
There was a time when I played in the finals of the youth under-19 competition against Safsa then, which had the likes of Samar Alapiche and company.
Yeah.
And I was with Burnley United,
Okay.
coached by Uncle Chu Seng Kui at that time. Kim Song, Kumar, myself, Tenjit.
They called Burnley United.
Burnley United,
Right.
And successful youth team on those days. So we got into the finals. I still remember, just before the game started, I was told by the referee, Major Ong.
Okay.
You know, not Major Ong, because Safsa was playing. Anyway, I can't remember who the referee was. And we were told that I could not play because I was wearing glasses. And Shasi, I took my glasses off and I played. And I didn't know which was left. We lost 7-0. And I cannot be, all the goals against us cannot entirely be attributed to me.
Okay, what was your position?
I was left back.
Okay.
So not centre back, so left back, okay.
Okay, not too bad. But the crosses came from your side.
Can't remember that one.
Right. Oh, interesting. Now, why did you go into coaching? Right? And at what age did you like have the ambition or the interest?
Yeah. So you see, I've always wanted to be a national player.
Okay.
I'll be very honest. And when my football,
of course, anyone wants to be a national player.
And my football playing progress was curtailed because of this. I managed to get contact lenses later. In those days, we had hard lenses.
Right.
Soft lenses had not come into the market yet. And the problem with the hard lenses was, you put them on, that was already a task, putting them on. But it falls off quite easily, especially when you get an impact on the back.
Okay.
So I lost the first pair, and that time it cost about $600.
Wow.
And $600 is a lot of money.
Of course.
So after that, I said, okay, there must be some kind of decision to be made. And I said, okay, I'll give up playing competitively, but socially.
Yeah.
And then I said, I want to go into coaching because I love the game so much. I didn't think of it like what I'm thinking about now as a coach, but I knew that coach is there who bucks out orders.
And what age was this, roughly?
27,
okay,
28.
Right.
Yeah, and I still remember the first person who conducted the course, which I attended, was Trevor Hartley. I think he's still around in the UK. And yeah, and that's where I started my coaching.
Okay.
Then Trevor Hartley got me into the Milo scheme as a coach, under 15, under 16 coach.
Okay.
And that's how my career started.
Did you think then your journey as a coach would have been like this long and would have been, successful in a way?
At that time, no. I never dreamed that football would go into this kind of a professional environment.
What were you doing then? job wise?
27, I was with the Sembawang shipyard.
Okay.
Started off initially as a general grade clerk, just after national service, and then became a computer programmer.
Right.
Those days, computers were all the mainframe computers,
Okay.
big tapes, and all
Okay.
that. And then I went. So at that time, also one of the reasons why I left Sembawang shipyard was when I had an opportunity to become the Lions City Cup coach. The shipyard management declined release.
Right.
So at an opportune time, I decided to quit, and I went into a company which had a Swedish general manager who was crazy about football.
Right.
So somehow through a third source, I
Okay.
managed to get the job there as a purchasing and stores officer. I had no clue about this job. I guess I was there because of my football.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit of football there and also coached the team.
Yeah.
So that's how my
Was that your last non-football job?
last non-football, that was my last non-football job in 1984. 85 the recession started, they went bust.
Okay.
So I lost my job.
Right.
Then for 2 or 3 years I was trying to bluff around as an insurance man.
Bluff
I
around.
said bluff around because I had this offer from a very good friend who was
Okay.
an insurance agent who sold me a policy.
Okay.
And he's a good guy, MP Silver.
Right.
And he said, hey, look, you got potential, you know so many people. And so I tried it, but it just didn't go with me. So I had to give that up. And when FAS gave me an opportunity to become, Changi constituency at that time, gave me an offer to become a part-time coach. I took that up.
Right.
And they paid me about $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I started from there.
Right. Who were your earliest influences in terms of coaching? Who did you look up to, or somebody who really was your so-called idol?
One I really looked up to is a contemporary,
Okay.
Siak Po Leong.
Right.
So he gave me the break in coaching. To be fair,
Okay.
he got me when he was in Germany doing his football license, professional license degree. And when he came back, he was given the task of being the TD of FAS.
Right.
I think that time they call it Director of Coaching.
Okay.
So he wanted to build up his team of coaches. So he approached me because we knew each other. When he was playing for Farrer United and I was playing for Burnley United,
Right.
we were
Okay.
opponents. And then also when we were in the army together, SAPSA.
Right.
So he knew me and he offered me, and I said okay. And from there it started, because that was for me a break. And I think everybody in life needs
Yes.
a break. And I think I was very, very fortunate, and I'm very grateful to what Po Leong has helped me to achieve.
And listen, this is to have a career in just football, in coaching, or you can't say you want to be a player till you're 60 plus or whatever, but coaching you can.
Yeah.
But was there any objections from family, or because it is risky? We all know what the risks are, especially if you're taking a club, for example, or even a national team.
Yeah.
So was there any, or even in your own head?
Yeah.
Was there any?
It never occurred to me that what after, or what you get kicked out of a job.
But you do know the risk, or you did know the risk. Yeah.
I never gave. I just wanted to brush it off because that was my life. I wanted to do it, and looking back, I thought it was crazy for me to do that because I got married at 27.
Yeah.
I became a father at 29.
Yeah.
And at this time I was still doing this coaching. It could, like you say, it's such a job that is unpredictable. Anything can happen. So I was very lucky. Man, I'm always very, very grateful, indebted that a lot of things fell in place for me.
Yeah.
And if it had gone the other way, what would have happened? God knows.
Yeah.
God knows.
You rise up the coaching ranks to become Singapore's B team head coach at first, right? How did that happen?
In 1987, Po Leong offered me coach of the under 21 teams, the Lions, the young youth team, sorry.
Yeah.
And we played in Malaysia, and then he must have seen something. He asked me to be the intermediate coach. The intermediate team was the supporting team to the national team.
Yeah.
So we picked up good players and we tried to train them, go for competitions. Then he became national coach. I think 87, 88, he became national coach. He asked me whether I would like to be his assistant. I jumped at it. I became his assistant coach, and that's where I picked up a lot of things.
Yeah.
If I have a regret, I'm not saying I have a regret. if I picked up those certain organizational things from Paul Yong, I would have been a better person and a better coach. I'm sure of it. Meaning, I'm quite ad hoc in my work. I could be better in
even now, or
then.
right.
And that's something that I learned, and I've realized that is not the way to go. You could be a little bit more organized, much more organized than what I was before.
Give me one example.
Now that you mentioned, asked me the question, I'm just trying to recall.
Are you talking about like a drill in a session,
no,
or organized
in life? Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it'll come.
Right.
It'll come.
Right. So because that question just came out of my head out of nowhere as well. I've got one more that just came out. You Paul Yong probably saw something in you, obviously, that he brought you in as an assistant and what have you. Because right now you have the experience of being a TD, a coach, mentor, head coach, and so on. What do you look in when you see a coach, right? And maybe for the first time you see someone coaching, and what do you see in him?
I first look for someone who's honest. I think integrity is very, very important.
How do you?
You can't look at someone and say he's honest. Huh? I think you go back a little bit to check on his background a little bit.
Okay.
People who know him, you do your background studies.
Yeah, right.
And of course, during work, you try to find out how whether his honesty is part of his life, whether it's something that comes naturally to him.
Okay.
And that's one big quality. I think Paul Yong maybe must have looked at it that way.
Right.
I would also look at someone who I think would be loyal.
Okay.
Not loyal blindly,
right.
but at least maybe not be one who goes behind your back.
Right.
I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Probably Paul Yong saw that. I never had these wild ambitions to take over somebody's position.
Right.
So I think probably those are things that I would look for. But most importantly is, I think I would look for someone who wants to get better.
Okay.
How do you do that? I really cannot tell you how, but really, if you
it's the intangible, isn't it? Like something that you
Absolutely.
can't see, you can't tell.
You can't tell, but if you work with someone, you would be able to feel it.
It's something of a judge of character, someone's character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When I talk about honesty,
right.
integrity, that's definitely one way of doing it. Yeah. I don't have a check sheet to say this is good, but basically it's something you see and you experience.
Right. Now, the next few years after that, it came really quick. It in terms of the national team, assistant coach, and what have you. And I think you were the national team assistant coach. That was under Paul Yong, right?
Yeah.
87,
88, 89 as well.
You were 36, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of backtracking and counting with my fingers, the calculators, right? At 36.
Yeah.
And then the national side at 41.
41, 42, yeah.
Right. What was that like? Because do you think it came a little bit too quick for you, or you thought that, I'm good enough, I can do this? And obviously maybe at that time you would think so, and anybody, if you give me the job, anybody would want to be a national coach. But now looking back, do you think it came too quick, or you think it was still okay?
You took the words out of my mouth. Exactly. At that time I felt I was ready.
Okay.
And those period, 92, 93 particularly, taught me a huge lesson. I was not ready. Even 93.
You think you were not ready?
Yeah. At that time I was ready, but
in
retrospect I feel that I was not ready, because if I look at the 92 season, I had a lot of experienced players.
Okay.
But somehow I couldn't get them working together. Probably because I took over midstream.
From
Milos
Kovacic
was a very good.
Yes.
If only he had stayed there for a year and I learned with him, I would have been a much better coach and a better person. Then 93 came, and 93 came with people who were Fandi, Sundram, the big names. And to manage them was not easy. I was fortunate that I had Patrick Ang then as a general manager. And also Robert Lim was a good assistant at that time. But looking back, I think it has not been an easy ride. But it taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me a lot of lessons. In terms of being consistent with decisions, I was a little bit flippy-floppy at that time, because there was the whole world had opinions about the national team then and my tactics.
Even now, right?
So I I had to contend with that, and I think one of the things I learned, although many people told me at that time, don't read the papers, but not easy. Sometimes you
Of
go
course.
into a public toilet, you see a newspaper there, and when you're doing your business, you're looking at the papers, and there's my name, my picture there,
Actually, it's worse now, right? With social media and
It is, yeah. So it has been not easy to avoid the media.
Yes.
And the media, I've got some very good friends in the media, and I really mean it when I say very good friends. So yeah.
Now, during that time as a fairly young national coach, right? Who did you get advice from? And who were your kakis? Because you like you said, right? You were young. And trying to...
From a technical side, from a football side, I really didn't. I really didn't go out to seek advice. Probably because I was afraid that people would say, "Hey, he's not capable." It may not have happened, but I even Paul Young, for that matter, at that time, I didn't really consult him very much.
Right.
And I don't know why. If you ask me now, I'm just wondering why should I have done that, or was I afraid that I would have to follow Paul Young's rigid ways? When I say rigid, his ways.
Yes.
So I didn't really consult people, but I consulted a lot of my close friends, people who I grew up with, people I found along the way, and I was with Singapore Indians Football Club just prior to that, and I used to consult some of them who were people who knew the game, but not very much. And at that time, if you remember, Shasi, I don't know whether you remember, but this K word was very common, Kelong.
Yeah, of course.
So everybody had an opinion about this player being there to fix the match, that player. So you realize that, hey, you're going to listen to all of them, you'll never make proper, clear decisions. So I decided to shut myself off. And that shutting myself off nearly was quite detrimental. And that is when I still remember, because at that time, the new paper, not the newspaper, the new paper was going to town and literally projecting the national team in a different light. Everybody was a demigod, and people who the writers were just going to town with their own.
Who were the writers that? Let me name a few. If you,
Please do.
Because I know during that time, growing up from school, after school, right, the first thing I do is just buy the newspaper. That was it's a tabloid, and it's just and what do? You flip to the back page, because we are all football lovers. We just go to the back page, and obviously it's football, right? And it's Gulam, Jeffrey Lowe. These two were, and obviously you love reading. They
give you a perspective of the game.
Good writers as well. So we'll get back to that, right? We'll get back to that. When you first got your first that call up to be the national coach, how did you feel?
Excited.
Yeah,
I was very excited, and I didn't know where to start. I mean, now if I give me a national coach job for the last 10 years, 15 years, there's a way of planning things. But at that time, I was just day to day.
What was the brief then? What were you to do? Okay, you
coach the national team.
And what's the objective? Win the
92.
Yeah, the first one, 92.
Yeah, 92 was to try to stabilize the ship,
right?
Because of Milos Kovacic left, there was a lot of bad vibes in the media. And here I must mention a name, Mr. Su Si Kwang, the late Mr. Su Si Kwang, who was the FA president then.
Okay.
With also the income tax boss.
Okay.
And he and Milos Kovacic had fallen out publicly.
Okay.
And Milos at that time mentioned something in the media which was not very nice for the president, and then they got him out, and he was the one who said Sivaji should be able to take it, and of course he checked with the technical people. So I owe that to him, because if I had not got that break, although we were bottom in the league, we were relegated. I still remember when we finished the league, and just before that, after the end of the league, we had this Malayan Cup that time, which is an annual thing that we had. We played the likes of Korea, Malaysia, and I still remember him. He said, "You just forget about the Malaysia Cup. Now it's all over. Now you just focus on this, beat Malaysia, and everybody will love you." And how true it was. We beat Malaysia then, and we got into the finals, and we lost to Korea. I still remember that. So that was like a salvation, so to speak. So he was a good man. He believed in me. Yeah. If he had not believed in me, if they had said, okay, fire him, we'll get another foreign coach.
Yeah.
Probably that would have been the end of my dream.
Okay. So that was like a form of a lifeline, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, 1992, you got the team got relegated. Tell us about the experience.
I got the team relegated. Okay, go ahead. You wanted to say that, but it's okay. No, I mean,
I wanted to say you and the team got relegated.
Okay.
Right, you and the team got relegated, right?
Okay.
Now, tell us about that experience when you knew then that, okay, probably the game that got you guys relegated and the brickbats that followed.
At that time, it was terrible. The media at that time, especially the newspaper, was selling. I felt sold most of his copies because of coverage of local football, and they really were whacking me left, right, and center.
Were you the scapegoat, the main guy, the main fall guy, so to speak?
I felt. Okay. I felt. I could be wrong, but I mean, when I looked at the articles.
So what was it? What was their angle? Was it tactical? Was it, I don't know. What was it? Can't get the players to play?
Yes, can't get the best out of the players. They were good players. They are refusing to play for Sivaji.
Okay.
Those kind of comments.
Okay.
So it was very hurting at that time. And I think if it happens to me now, I think I'm definitely be able to manage it better. But young man growing up,
yes,
very sensitive to all these kind of things. How good it would have been if I had a couple of people in the game, really in the game, who I could go to. I didn't tap on Orion. I don't know why, as I mentioned.
You could have.
I could have. I didn't. I don't know why.
Okay.
I still have got no reason. Right. No reason for it. But there were a couple of other people I could have gone to. But somehow, was it pride? Was it fear of hearing the wrong things? I don't know. So that's something that is always rankled me.
And you tend to question yourself when things go wrong, right? Like being relegated is one, you losing in a final is one. You tend to think, did I do the right thing? Did I make a substitution at the right time? Did I? There's so many what ifs, and that plays in your mind as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you see, because you always want to make a decision based on a football. It has to be a football decision.
Right.
But then sometimes I have to make a decision based on this K factor, the Kalong factor.
So you did make decisions based on that.
I used and looking back
in both years.
The second year,
1993.
Yeah. Particularly second year. The first year towards the end of the season, because then we were fighting to stay in the league, and you hear a lot of things. So
Now in 1993, how was the team formed? The dream team, right? How was it formed? Did you pick the players to come in and what have you?
Okay, the local players, most of them I picked, but then to get Fandi in, to get Malik Awab in, to get Jang Jung in, Abbas Alistair.
Right.
Abbas Alistair, they were already with the team in 1990 and 91.
Correct, 1990 and 91.
So they were already known, but Jang Jung was Patrick Ang's contact. Similarly for Fandi, because of former Geylang.
Yeah.
So Patrick had a big hand in getting the squad to me. One day he calls me up, and we went for a drink, and then he said, "Hey, look, I can get Fandi. Would you be interested?" I said, "Of course I'd be interested."
Right.
So not my choice. I don't think they would have come because I was there.
Yeah.
But Patrick's pull was very important.
Right. Now, tell me more about the players that were in that squad. Never mind. I will just give you names, and then you just tell me maybe in 1 word or 2 words about these players. I've got this squad, and listeners who are listening in, these are like who's who of Singapore football, right? Abdul Malik,
goalkeeper. Yeah.
And
young goalkeeper. I'd worked with him, I think, in the intermediates, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I thought he was a very good choice.
Right.
Bashe also worked with me intermediates. Had limitations, especially in his footballing part.
Okay.
In terms of his ability to dominate the box with his aggression and power.
Right. Saswa
was a pick of Milos Kawacek. Milos Kawacek discovered him.
Okay.
And I took him on, and I found him a very quiet player, but a very efficient player.
Yeah. Utility player as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Malik Awab.
Yeah.
What would you do without a player like him on the left flank, who was like literally not only the way that he just sending crosses, but how he worked.
Okay.
How he worked and showed by example to the other players that you have to be an industrious workhorse to be a good football player.
Nice. Razali San.
Razali, calm, cool, good reader of the game. But somehow you feel that he could not go any further. I don't know. He was efficient,
Okay.
but I don't know. I could not get him to go to the next level.
Lim Tong Hai.
Lim Tong Hai, honest, loyal, hardworking guy. I'm to this day I'm very saddened by people always connecting him to the two own goals. I should not have mentioned this now because people may have forgotten it, but I still felt that he was honest. Whatever happened to him in that game and other games that occurred, he for me would always be one I trust.
By the way, Tong Hai was in one of my shows, and he did share his
was he?
well, and his the pain that he felt, right?
Yeah.
The late Bohan.
Mr. Tank. Oh, yeah, I mean, bless his soul, but he was everything for me as a hard man. Sometimes I used to make him play as a stopper to mark Zainal Abidin, and Zainal Abidin, the moment he saw Boran, he would try to get away from him, and
Nice.
a solid man.
Yaya Madun.
Yaya Modon, again, good player, good vision. Some of his passing was excellent, but at the higher level, he just couldn't deliver. And I don't blame the player for it. I think sometimes the coach has to give that little bit extra.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I didn't provide that.
Kadi Ayu.
Oh, Kade, workhorse. He lives and breathes the game, or at least then. Good right fullback. I mean, I thought he would never stop in a game of 90 minutes. He could just go on and on and on. So yeah, good player.
Zhang Jun.
Oh, Zhang Jung was for me one of the best centre backs I worked with.
Okay.
For me at that time, but very astute reading of the game. He knows how to position himself, and even when building up things from the defense to attack was very good among most of the centre backs I worked with.
Yeah. Nazri Nasir.
Nazri again, I still remember he had an accident, motorcycle accident,
Yes.
and many people or some people at least said that maybe his career is gone. But he showed what a fighter he is, and he came back
Even stronger. I think.
stronger, much stronger. Yeah. And talking about Nasri, he just had
Yes.
a scare, and I hope he recovers.
Yes. Mr. Abasa.
Abbas, what is the word you use? Flamboyant? I don't know, but he was a very good footballer. He was.
Yeah.
Very good brains. There were accusations that he was sometimes holding back, but I never saw it.
Okay.
But he was a good player who could assist and score goals.
Yeah, and I did a couple of courses with him as well, coaching courses as well, and he you can tell why.
Yeah.
You can tell the class.
Yeah.
Alistair Edwards.
Alistair Edwards, I think, honest. A lot of people accused him of deserting the team after we lost in '93, going to Selangor immediately after. That he had something there, but for me, he was a loyal servant. He worked very hard and very honest as well.
Right. Fandi.
What can you say about Fandi? Fandi, I had seen him play in the Lions Cup, and when he was available, I said, "This is the player I want."
Yeah.
And he single-handedly won us games.
Yeah. Lastly, V Sundramoorthy.
just like Fandi, he has single-handedly won matches for. But he was like a magician on the field. I mean, he could do things that I would not have expected him to do, like getting out of tight areas. Yeah. He had his naughty sides, but like all players, they have their naughty sides.
Yeah. Now, all those players, right? How did you manage that team of stars?
Absolutely.
How do you
what a question to ask, Shasi, because if you ask me to recall,
I don't know. You are in the spot now.
I knew that I could not be the strict disciplinarian that some people wanted me to be then. I knew that I had to be a friend. But back in the back of my head, sometimes I used to feel, am I trusting them too much? Are they...
In terms of what? When you say trust them, in terms of tactically do whatever that kind of thing.
Yeah. And they knowing how to get out of these kind of tight situations. Right. I just wonder whether that was the case. I mean, I'm not putting everything on them.
Yeah.
But I think it was not easy, but I think I did a reasonable job. I think again, if I had another chance to work with them at a later stage when I became a little bit more mature, I think we would have beaten many teams in this region.
Yeah, of course. You know, still, if you look at it, at that team, right? That's what it is. So you know, lots of people do not understand. There is a fine line between trusting the players and then sticking to your so-called structured. You know, there's so many things. There's so many things.
Yeah. Because Shasi, I mean, you're a coach. You know football as well as I do. There is. You must allow the players that freedom.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, if you control every move of them, then you are destined to failure. That's my strong belief.
Yeah.
So, especially in that particular dream team, can you imagine forcing them to play in a certain way?
Yeah.
You kill the creativity.
Correct.
We have a lot of creative players then.
Now, going into that final against Kedah, you guys were favourites, dream team and all, and Fandis and Sundrams and Abbas and Elisters and stuff like that. You lost 2-0. Yeah. In footballing terms, what did you think went wrong?
If you had asked me then,
Yeah.
I would not have been able to tell you, but I can tell you now.
Right.
Why? Because I've seen that game on video.
Okay.
Then, if you remember, we were not blessed with this
Correct.
ability to go back to check on links and all that. So
Right.
I've seen the game, and I think we actually didn't play badly.
Okay.
We missed a few chances to score.
Right.
And again, people's accusations after the match was that the match was fixed. But I don't believe the match was fixed. I believe that football is a game, and you've been in the game for such a long time. You cannot predict that when this move happens, it's going to be a goal. Right. You ask Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, they make so many chances, but if they don't score and then they end up losing a game because they let a goal in. Yeah. So we had very good players, but the ability to say you will win a game, certainly you may be able to do it with the weakest team in the league.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's funny how you said this about the match fixing and the K word and the K long and whatever, and it was rife then back then, and it was quite open, in fact. And in an article in 2012, I think it was with Dilanjit Singh, you said you felt cheated. I quote, you felt cheated. Do you think something was amiss then? But you said just now that no, you didn't really think.
At the time the game was played, no. But in 2012, why I said that was because there was this revelation.
Correct, by
Wilson, Raj, that game was fixed.
Right.
So that was the one I felt
Correct.
that was vindication, because a lot of the blame after we lost that was put on my shoulders.
Again, on you again.
Yeah. So I thought that was vindication in that sense.
Right. And again, this could be sensitive and stuff, and you said that you had to make decisions because of that, because of the K word, right?
Yeah.
So you had to just give me an example. You don't have to name players, but example of like making a substitution or what?
I didn't have to. I didn't make changes just based on assumptions, but performances.
Okay.
So sometimes my judgment is based on what I've heard before, and then seeing the performance happening.
Right.
But on hindsight, on reflection, I said, "Hey, hang on. He's human. He's allowed to make those kind of mistakes later on."
Right.
So, but the thing is, when this news is so rife just before, and you watch it during the game, then you tend to make decisions. Unfortunately, I think a stronger person, maybe someone like Siak Poleong, maybe you yourself would not fall prey to that. But I fell prey to that. I'll be very honest.
And it was the age as well. You like you said, right? You at that age as well. Now, of course, the backlash followed, right? Yeah. So what did you do to overcome them? I think you said at one point that it was near depression, man, and I can understand. I went through my first year in the S League in terms of coaching the S League side, Woodlands, in 2010, and we did ever so well to reach the League Cup final. We lost the final, right?
Yeah.
And there was no like brickbats then, right? But the thing came from yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The pressure comes from yourself, not from anyone. I don't care about anyone else, right? The pressure comes from yourself, and you start thinking, did I do something wrong? Did I make the right substitution? Did I pick the right player? So that alone was pressure enough. But what about that losing a Malaysia Cup final
Yeah.
with the dream team.
Yeah.
How was that like, and how did you manage to pull through?
I think family support was one of the most important things that helped me to pull through. And I think the close friends who were like family then were also one of the reasons. My brother was the editor of the newspaper at that time, and they were literally whacking me out of shape with the reports of the national team and my poor handling of it. But at one point I couldn't believe that it was my brother's paper.
Right.
Then you realize that he is a professional. He's got to do. You cannot tell Gulam, "Hey, my brother is the coach. Please don't write like this."
Yeah.
That's not possible. So at one point in time, and I can't really remember this, he wrote me a letter. He wrote me a private letter.
Before that, was there a fallout?
Never a follow-up.
Yeah.
But although my brother is just 3 years my senior, 48, 51, 3 years my senior, we were not close as in physically close.
Okay.
But sometimes there is this mental connection.
Right.
Probably I'm the youngest, he felt, but he wrote to me once, and recently when he had this launch of his book, he asked me whether I could trace the letter.
Okay.
So we had moved house, and my stuff were all in the
Yeah.
storage facility.
Yeah.
So I could not find it, but I found it recently, and I read it, and it brought tears to my eyes. I feel emotional when I say that. But some of the words he said was like, the pain I'm going through. He said, to go through these articles and then to pass it, not to correct it, to edit it, to let it go. And I think some of the words he said was like, "You're my only brother. I love you."
Wow.
So time for a break.
The way you reacted then and now, I think you said it as well, that has changed. Your thoughts about the media has changed. That has come with obviously with maturity.
Yes.
How has that changed? Like how would you have just
one of the things I would have done
Right.
then if I had been armed with this knowledge that I've had is sometimes to throw questions back to the questioner or the journalist, so to give me some time to think.
okay?
And normally when you do that, you put them under pressure because then they have to explain to me what the question is. But then I also realized that they have a job to do. And if they just write the normal things, the standard things, they would get whacked by their editors.
Right.
So I knew they had a job to do. They had to ask probing questions that provoke. And I've learned to manage that. And I think that the numerous courses that I've attended, coaching courses I've attended, have helped me. And discussing with senior coaches, how you manage media. I remember once during my pro license, we visited Liverpool as part of the module. So, in this pro license, I had Vincent Subramanian, myself, and Vincent is a very close friend, and I still keep in touch. So Vincent, Lim Kim Chun, Tong Hai's uncle from Malaysia, and a few other friends. We went to Liverpool, and who was the manager then? The great Gerard Houllier, who just passed away.
Oh yes.
And he had an issue with the media because there was an incident in the training. Phil Neal was the assistant coach. Robbie Fowler was playing, and Robbie Fowler kicked the ball when he saw what's his name? Phil Neal, the defender.
For Man U.
For Liverpool.
Of
Phil Neal.
The
defender who became an assistant coach.
Yes.
So kicked the ball. People accused him of delivery doing it, and he had to manage that, and the media reported it. So he told us about how he managed the media, and I thought that was, again, as I mentioned, attending courses also helps you to develop those kind of skills.
Right. And this is the reason why I have so much respect for coaches who've lasted a very, very, very long time. It's ridiculous, and I don't know how they do that as well, especially at the top level for a very, very long time. The pressure will kill you. If you're not strong enough, health-wise, you'll go. It's ridiculous because I think people like Graham Souness suffered a heart attack. The late Gerard Houllier as well. Even on the bench, he did. So it's huge respect for these people and yourself as well, and the Vincents and what have you. It's it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
We go on to the S League, right? Now you took 3 teams.
Yeah.
Balestier, the Young Lions, and Home United. Obviously, it ended with that. Now, 3 specific questions for the 3 teams, right? Balestier, were they a developmental team when you took over?
Yes, that was the aim, to build a new team.
Right.
Because prior to that, you had Goran, Polish Goran, Marco, and those, and then the older players, local players like Awafi, Abdullano. So they were all being
Hasnim as well? Was that
Hasnim as well? Hasnim then went on to Johor.
Right.
Yeah, so there was a mandate from Tawad. Let's build a new team and young players, and I think you are good with young players because I had worked with the intermediates and youth teams before. So so that for me gave me a lot of satisfaction because I brought in players who were not. When I say I brought in my coaches as well, Arasu, Nasaruddin, Jalil, they were all doing the scouting part, and they brought in these players, and somehow we managed to mold them into a team of fighters, which lacked probably that finesse.
Right.
Obviously they would, but when I looked at people like Siobeng, Tan Siobeng, and Don Matthew, they've all given up football, but Siobeng is still coaching.
Where is Don Matthew?
Don is with the Air Force, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, you remember him?
Yes, of course.
Did you play against him? No, or were you already coaching?
No, I think I did.
You're still playing.
Yeah.
So to mold them into a team, Dennis Lim.
Yeah.
And I looked, and the coaches with me, we looked not only for football skills because we knew that at that age these guys were not coming from a strong football background, but we looked for something else. We looked for the mentality. We looked for players who were tough, players who were loyal, players who were willing to work as a team. And this guy Siobeng and company showed us that. And we, when we were building that team, I was very fortunate, very fortunate to have this man, Darren Stewart.
Oh yes. Oh, you wearing his? I didn't know.
I just picked it up today from the house.
Right.
And Darren Stewart was like the captain in my team.
Okay.
And he was such an influence on the younger players. They literally worshipped him.
Yeah.
So it made my job a lot easier.
I worked with him for 1.5 years at Gombak. Yes. Yeah.
And so that it made my job easier. But I had a lot of pleasure working with this, and because when you see small improvements, you feel very happy to see that.
Now, again, there are criticisms of Balestier. You know, at that time, when we first started out with the developmental team, but I think the criticism was there was no ambition to win the league, right? Obviously, there's no relegation, so there's nothing to so-called worry about.
Yeah.
Maybe now it's a little bit different. I think there are a little bit of changes there, but do you think that's, do you think that's valid at that point that they don't have ambition?
I think when they started in 96, there was big ambition.
Yeah, they had a good team.
Then when it came to my time, 1998, 99, 2000, 2001, we were, in fact, the first 2 years, 98, 99, we were still depending on some of the senior players.
Yeah.
But when we spent into the process of trying to rebuild the team, probably that the aim and objectives changed.
Right.
I think probably there was this thinking about, if we're going to spend so much of money, what do we get in return? Do we go somewhere and there's going to be big money coming in? So there were a lot of questions probably not only by Balestier but other club chairmen as well. Because if you notice, 1996 when the league started, and 1999, 2000 onwards, when the recession hit, many of them started to reduce the sponsorship. So I think many clubs also faced that. But we were probably on a much smaller budget than most of the other teams.
Young Lions, I think you took them in their very first year.
Yeah.
When they started
2003.
2003. Yes, that was my last year playing wise, right?
Okay. You were then with Clementi or Tampines?
No, Geylang. I finished with Geylang.
Geylang. Yes. That's right. Yeah.
And we finished second as well.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that was a good team.
Yeah.
I think the Sharali Shah was in that squad and stuff like that. Now, do you think, in your opinion, it has been a success? The Young Lions project till now.
You see, the reason for people may not realize this, but the reason for the Young Lions being formed was because the under 23 SEA Games became an under 23 event.
Yeah.
And prior to we starting the Young Lions, the majority of the players who represented the Young Lions, or rather the SEA Games under 23 event, were all picked from the Prime League.
Yep.
Because the players in the under 23 team for the national team could not make it into the first teams of the S League teams.
Yeah.
So we said, look, the tempo, the intensity, the quality in the Prime League competitions was not good enough. So we said, okay, let's bring this Young Lions team. Let's go with an all local team, pick them up. All the clubs had to release the players, and we actually, if you can remember, 2003, the first year, we were voted Team of the Month by Straits Times because we had some. I think we beat Geylang, we drew with Woodlands, or we beat Woodlands. But after that, and again, part of it was I was to blame because I didn't manage the players better. Part of it was because also that the players suddenly thought they were winners of the league. So I was not able to bring them down to size at the right time. And the clubs were also not happy that Young Lions were doing well. I felt, because we wanted to make it in a situation where we want to also sometimes change players. But that was denied. So 2003 was not a bad year, but we were we were at the bottom. We ended up bottom. We started off well, but we ended up bottom. Then 2004, I think when Radi came over, he brought in Shichai, foreign-based players, and I thought there was an improvement then. And I thought that was the right thing to do because you bring them in and then you give them citizenship papers, and then they play for Singapore. So that was great. But somehow we lost our way. Whether it's the money, the feeling that it is being money wasted that some people had, and that unfortunately derailed that project.
And till now, do you? I'm not talking about then. I'm talking about now. Do you think overall it has been a success?
It has been a success I know many people may not agree, but it has been a success in that it has allowed players who had just played in the Prime League to play in a more senior league. But I think just to keep local players, under 23 players to play in the league, we learned that it was not enough. So we had to look for another formula. And I think probably the present formula may work because now you're making sure that there are a certain number of under 23 players who should play in the league. In
the clubs, should start off.
So the Young Lions is still there. I wonder whether they have the best players or the clubs have some good players. I do not know. So maybe it at least expands the pool of players rather than only Young Lions having the players of under 23 age. The clubs have also, and they are playing regularly.
There's another criticism there as well. With the clubs, with the under 23s as well, because the criticism is that then you have to play 3 under 23 players who might not be good enough. So they don't earn their right to play. So that's another criticism there. HUFC, Home United, of course now is Lions City Sailors. Did you think you could have won it that year? Who were the players you had?
Good slide. We had Subramani.
Was it 2009?
2008, 2009. 2008, 2009. First year was good. I think we were close. But I think what really shook us or prevented us from going the full distance was that we just couldn't beat SAF. I can't remember us beating SAF, and they always became champions. Of course, I mean, if there is a criticism I can put on them, if they had more than 3 foreign players, they had 5
because of
players, so they were smart enough to do that. But at one time they had 6 players anyway. So I think maybe that was one, because if you wanted to win the league, you had to beat SAF, and I think we just didn't beat them. So probably that's one of the reasons that the players themselves affected the players.
Now, just going back to being technical director, right? Now, listeners would want to know what exactly is the role of a technical director. I think that is something that's so loosely said, like this guy is the technical director of Belgium, for example. So what is that role? Does that entail? Because I think different countries have maybe slight role changes, but what for you?
Primarily, the technical director is the supremo for technical football development in the country. Meaning, he must have a plan, which Sablon had when he came, Michel Sablon.
Yeah.
And you have to, because you are harnessing the different pillars in football development. So you are looking at grassroots, youth development, coach education, women's football, national teams. So they're all linked. And you are in charge of ensuring that you get right people to lead these units, you can call it. And they are, that you develop a plan with a target to reach somewhere in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that would be, he's more like a chef,
Right.
trying to put in the right ingredients to cook up a very tasty dish.
Then let me ask you a question, right? Is 2 years enough then to be a TD?
Never enough. Never enough. So why? So your next question would be why do people offer 2-year contracts? Yeah, I mean that's. I think it's sometimes it's due to the fact that the people who appoint these people in these positions of TD and give them 2-year contracts is that they are not sure whether these people can do a good job.
But you would think that
You would think so.
you would think that a job that is so important for the development of football in a particular country,
Yeah.
then you have to be sure
Yeah,
of who you are getting.
Absolutely. But in these things, when you recruit people, when you hire people on this kind of jobs, if you know them well, you know them very closely, probably you can make a decision to engage them for a longer period. But if you're bringing in people, a couple of interviews won't tell you the true full story. And even for when you bring in foreigners, for example, will they be able to adapt to the local system, to the local culture? None of the foreigners who have come here, and none of the locals who have been coaches, been TDs here, have not been. They have not been able to find a solution to the national service problem, and that is a huge problem in the development. For me, that gap is something that, and I fully understand where we are.
But do you think there is a solution? I don't. There's no solution, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a solution during my playing time when we had the supernumerary sportsman program, which means they identify good football players.
Okay.
So the moment they go into the army, they already mark them, flag them, so to speak. They go into basic training. Everybody has to do basic training, and then they put us into a unit to train, to learn a vocation, half day. You do a vocation for half day, and the afternoons you go out and train, and you're available for the national team. Fantastic. But that has stopped because our dwindling male population has affected the number of people coming in to serve national service, and I fully understand where the government is heading.
Yeah, of course. Just going back to the TD part, right? What's so sad is when you do have these 2-year contracts, and then when after that 2-year that person leaves, then a new person comes in, and then there's a new system. There's a new so-called manual. There's so every 2 years something new comes in, and there's no continuity, no progression, no follow through to what's happening before. So that is very sad.
Yeah, in most cases that's what happened. But you see, sometimes you have a strong technical committee comprising technical people primarily, who make some very important decisions in this area. And I think that maybe in our context in Singapore, probably that's where we lack a little bit. So the technical committee would always have like a controlling. I won't say maybe controlling is not is a too strong a word, but has a guiding light. They provide a guiding light to the TD to say, look, okay, just to cut it short. When I became TD, I was working under Jan Poulsen.
Okay.
And I was determined, because I knew that what Paul had, Jan Poulsen had started was a good project. The COEs, National Football Academy, the link. And one of the things I mentioned at the interview in 2003 towards the end was to say that I will continue with what Jan did, but the only change I wanted to make was to introduce single age groups. So we had 15, 16, 17, 18 rather than 16, 18, because there was a gap. Players were missing after they graduate from the 15s.
Which is what's happening now.
Yeah.
The gap is there.
So probably we have not learned our lessons.
I'm not saying this because you are here, and I'm not saying this because you were the TD then, and I was a COE coach then, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
We had the 16, I think 18 you know, and it was good, you know, the coaching education part. You know, I think we had sessions every Tuesdays or Wednesdays, you know, under Robert, and it's not only the football part. There were other things to learn, the admin side, you know, the whatever that we had to do. I'm just thinking back, because at that time, you know, obviously we there's work to do, complaints, whatever, we had to do it. But then just thinking back, that was needed actually.
Absolutely. I mean, you're right, Shashi, because at that time, the coaches that we were engaging full time for COE, they were blessed to have gone under Robert Lim, although not many people liked it because he was a tough taskmaster. But also they learned more than just coaching. Planning. The planning part was very, very important.
Key.
Yeah, and I thought he did a good job there, and many coaches benefited from it. So yes, I think that COE for me, where all the clubs were fully in support, was the best. That was in 2002, 2003, 2004. After that, the money started to dwindle, and then because FAS was paying for the salaries of the coaches, and then the clubs wanted to take a bit more control, which I can understand up to a point. But I thought we should always focus on the main tasks.
Good point. Very briefly, your stint at FAS as a TD, how do you think it went?
I don't think it was a great success, but I thought we, like you just mentioned, the first 2 years was good, especially the COE program ran successfully. We managed to weed out the coaches who were moonlighting and made them focus on the job at hand, and they produced some good players. But if I look back at it, I thought I could have done more with the experience that I've gained over the years, like now, and I hope I can do that when I'm with Brunei now.
Nice. Open to coming back anytime soon?
No. Primarily because I think I've passed that time. My age is a factor. I mentioned to you just before the interview about my strong partner reminding me that I'm 1 year short of 70, and to take it easy. So sometimes you don't realize this, Shashi, until you get out into the field and you get to do some work now, and you find, wow, it's really tough.
Just a few personal stuff here. Now, you said the stock of local coaches are rising. You know, I think in recent article with the likes of Aidil, Akbar, and even Bala, who's in
Chennai.
Why do you think so?
Primarily because I've seen them going out and doing something and achieving success. So this is very important, because when you send your coaches out, or rather when your coaches embark, we don't send them out. We don't have the opportunity like JFA has, the Japan Football Association, sending out coaches, paying for their salaries. But here, when our coaches go out on their own steam and achieve success, I think that is key. Then they will say, hey, look, this is a Singaporean coach. Probably there could be more in the stock.
It's just like marketing ourselves out there.
Absolutely. And these guys are doing a fantastic job.
Do you think coaches should specialize? For example, you think that I'm better at youth coaching, so I'm just special. I'm not going to go up there to coach a senior side. Or this guy is better with adults. Or this guy is only good with under 12s, for example. Do you think coaches should remain where they are, or they should?
I think it primarily depends on what drives that coach, the person. So, for example, I like to work with youngsters. I like to bring good youngsters up. I think then I should try and specialize in that area, because youth coaching is a specialist area. I mean, you're working with young, you don't treat them as adults. We know that. So that part, I think we need to make sure that you know what you want. For me, when I started coaching, I wanted to be up senior. I wanted to achieve honors with the senior teams. I wanted to work with the senior teams.
Now you say that, like, I love coaching. For example, I love coaching the senior side. For example, right? But I may not be good at that. That's tough as well.
That realization sometimes doesn't come to people. Unless they're told. So you need to really think and say, hey, is this my strength? I think sometimes the only way you can find out whether this is your strength is to walk the path. Then when you walk, you realize, because some people still can't realize that, but most people realize, I think I'm not up to this. I think I can do a better job working with youngsters.
Yeah, and I can tell you for sure, I can't coach the under fives.
I would struggle, Sashi, because you need
you need specialized people for that, and kudos to those guys, man.
and they should be parents like you. You've got a 5-year-old daughter, and so you would be in a better position to manage their moods, so to speak.
Exactly. Now, coaches' development and culture here in Singapore, right? I think you've been keeping tabs and what have you. What needs to stay and what needs to change, do you think?
You see, teaching, coaching, coach education has changed dramatically. I think if you are now a coach developer, right? And the methods of instruction has changed. What I used to just put a PPT, a PowerPoint thing on top, and I used to retrum it and talk about it. But I think that has changed tremendously. Now we are working on, because we have realized that you develop better as a student if you are asked to talk about things that you know. During my time as an instructor, I used to assume, like most of them, that we know everything and you don't know anything.
Yes.
Now you've got the access of, when I say something, I see people checking on the phone in a class, in a lecture.
Mr. Google.
And they're checking to see whether what I said is true. And I'll ask them openly, I said, if you see something, let's debate it. Let's talk about it, because I would love to share my experiences, and then this is a good way to. And I say I would like you to tell me what you have Googled to make you change your decision.
Right.
So,
it's funny you say now things have changed, right? But I tell you, some countries are way ahead of us, because way back. And I was lucky. I went up to Japan. I think you sent me with Hyrule. Remember? And that was their equivalent of the C license.
12. Oh yeah, that's right.
Their equivalent, and it's the under 12, right? They were already there. What you said just now, they were already there. There is no right or wrong. They ask you what is your opinion. And that was an eye opener for me. And that I took that along all the way. After that, because it all depends on the objectives of your session. If you can explain and why you're doing that, then
correct. Yes, and we have to accept the fact that when I say this is how it works, you can tell me, no, I've tried it elsewhere and it worked this way. And I am nobody to say this is the only way.
And sometimes it's just about just taking this marker and put it in like 5 meters apart. Things change. And that's
amazing. Huh?
Yes. With your know-how in coaching and strategic planning as well, right? What needs to be done to take Singapore to the next level? In terms of infrastructure and privatization.
To be honest, Shasi, I've not really kept very much contact with what's happening here. Although the only thing that you realize is when the results are not good with the national team, with the youth teams, and when I see our youth teams getting losing big margins, then I wonder whether we have actually regressed, we have taken steps back, or we have actually progressed forward. Is it the coaches who are in charge? Is it the players' development from a younger age that has not been happening? So I would love to talk about it, but I don't think I would be being fair without having the right knowledge.
Who are your best mates in football?
One of them is up in heaven, Darren Stewart. I mean, he was a player, but he was a mate. And I miss him. I remember I managed to, one of the things I did for him, not for him, but I did for myself to help him, was when I managed to open the door for him to get this Maldives job as a national coach.
That's quite recent, right?
So when this guy from Maldives contacted me as the technical director, local chap then, I had two names. I had Darren and a Japanese. I mentioned both the names. Then the guy asked me, okay, who would you recommend? I said, the guy, Darren, the Japanese guy, I don't know very much, but I think his English, he would struggle. Darren Stewart, I would put my last dollar with him being the better candidate. And I was glad that he actually did something good there. But when I talk about him, there's so many. There were instances. I should tell you quickly. When he was with me playing in Balestier, he joined us 1999 from Johor. So 99 we had a reasonably good season, for Balestier then to be fourth or fifth was
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
And then he was the mainstay there. And then 2000, when we decided with Tawa to go with young players, all the Sio Bing, Don Matthews and all, I said, yeah, we can go because I know Darren is there. But the poor fella broke his toe. And at that time, if you remember, Beckham broke his toe. Almost every other fella was breaking their toe, metatarsal they call it. So that was for me, because he could not play, but he took pills.
Yeah.
I found out later
Yeah.
that he took pills to play. And I mean, talk of loyalty,
Yeah.
talk of honesty, integrity. Example.
Great. Now, coaching, coach mentor, or TD? Which one would you choose?
At this stage, coach mentor, because I feel I have so much to share
Exactly.
from the experiences that I've been through, and I feel that you can make, based on my experience in Myanmar, you can see the difference within a year probably.
Nice.
How responsive they are. So for me, probably it's because in Myanmar the coaches are at rock bottom when I came to do this mentorship job, and they have like moved one step very fast and very high for me.
Right.
So I could see that, and I enjoy that.
Nice. It's a feeling of self fulfillment, satisfaction.
Yeah.
The best player. This is going to be tough. The best player or players you have coached before. You ever coached?
When you say coach, I won't say it is. If maybe there are two categories
Yes.
to look at. Right?
Yes.
One is best players who I coach with, whether they were already accomplished players.
Okay.
Darren Stewart.
Okay.
And Darren Stewart was still learning. For me, he was like, coach, I didn't see this before. You know, that kind of thing. So, but really to improve a player, probably look at. I could be wrong, but I would. The first name that comes to my mind is it because I just mentioned Darren Stewart. I look at Tan Sio Beng.
Right.
He was a player who was running around like a headless chicken, and then until I finally felt he was good enough to be in my to the national team when I was interim coach in 2003.
Yeah.
We played in the Asian qualifiers,
Yeah.
and we played Macau and Philippines, and he was in the squad then, but I think he didn't play.
Okay.
But still,
Yeah.
he was good enough to be.
Right.
Although there were a lot of questions asked as to why I picked him.
Your biggest regret or regrets?
No regrets. I mean, the game has been so kind to me. I met so many wonderful people. I have so many wonderful experiences. I really, at this moment, I really can't think. Okay, probably taking the team down.
In 92.
Maybe a bigger problem, a bigger feeling of not having achieved something was the 1993 team. So much of potential, but just couldn't win the. But is it fair? Because I thought over the season we brought the country together. Everyone was like rooting for the team, whether you are Indian, Chinese, Malay, whatever you are. We all came together.
The good and the bad, right?
Yeah. So it was, for me, I've been on a journey which I'm very, very fortunate to have been, and I thank all the people who have helped me in that, even players like you.
Thank you. Biggest achievement?
Biggest achievement? You see, if you look back at my record, and I think maybe you would have had a tough time trying to look at what I have won as a coach.
Octa.
As a player, I have won many things.
Yeah.
But so that period with Octa was like telling me, hey, I can still do a job, and that was, so without being boastful, I mean, I've got a very good reputation in Myanmar. Nice. People still look up to me, so I guess I've had an impact there.
Lastly, Mr. PN Sivaji, any words of advice for young coaches? Because I think you're the right man, right? You're coach, mentor, and what have you, right? Young budding coaches trying to make the grade coming up.
Yeah, I think you hinted to me that you may ask this question, and I have been trying to think. What can I say? I think the most important is to be yourself. I think that's important. Not very easy as a young coach coming up, because you tend to get people telling you, almost everybody telling you what to do. So that try to be your person and be your man, and be open to learning. I think don't close your mind. I think I don't say, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't have to look at analysis. I can get a football analyst to do this for me. No, I think you have to learn the whole thing. And I think that is one thing that you guys did when you were in the COE.
Exactly.
Because again, Robert Lim was instrumental in making
Yeah.
sure that you guys learned it. Not many people wanted to do it. I think you were one of those who really wanted to do it among the others I know. But that's something that the coaches, the young coaches, have to say. Look, I'm not just going to say coaching, and that's it. I want to keep myself open, but find my niche along the way.
Thank you so much, Mr. PN Sivaji. You know, I have to say thank you again because I had to scramble because I knew that you were in Singapore for a very short window. This is like a transfer window to me, you know. When I heard that you were in town and from Subramani as well, thank you, Mr. Mani. You know, when I saw the pictures on Facebook that you were in town, I scrambled.
Okay.
You know, I got you in, and thank you very much for taking your time off, 2 hours, 3 hours of your time to be in here on the Silverfox Hustle podcast. And I think it has been great for listeners. You know, I think coaches, young coaches coming up, you know, to hear the stories and you know, of course, to learn something as well from the experiences. So thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Shasi, for bringing me here and allowing me to express my thoughts. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Is it an hour?
It's an hour and 28 minutes.
Okay. Okay. But it is good session to share, and I'm so glad to see people like you pursuing your passion and what you're doing now. You know, I mean, you're a teacher, but at the same time you're doing what you're doing now, and it's at your own time, at your own expense. And I think those are things that make me very happy to see someone who has been through the environment that I had worked in the FA, doing things like this, going out in the open, pursuing his ambition. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been episode number 33. For those of you who are listening in, please share this podcast with your family and friends. And this has been really a great storytelling session with my guest, Mr. PM Sivaji. Till the next time, the hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. Cheers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very good. Brilliant.
Thank you so much.